All right, President Trump today also weighing possible tariff exemptions for imported car parts, giving auto companies more time to set up U.S. manufacturing.
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time.
Joining us now is former Chrysler chairman and CEO, also former CEO of Home Depot, my friend, Bob Nardelli. Bob, this is a big, awesome move on behalf of the president. No car is fully American-made, period. The most American-made car is a Tesla. On average, a Tesla is 81% American-made, so 19% of it comes from places not in the United States. So you had American companies, like particularly Ford, GM, Chrysler, and Jeep, that have a large percentage of their vehicles filled with parts from overseas or Mexico, and they were going to lose. They were going to have to lay people off. They were going to have to close down assemblies if this 25% tariff went into place next month. This changes all of that potentially and keeps those jobs here.
Yeah, Dagan, good to be with you tonight, and Jason. This is a very, very complex and intertwined decision that's being made. Dagan, you'll remember when I was running Chrysler, the SAR, the seasonally adjusted rate, went from 17 million vehicles down to 9.6. Now, last year, we had a 16 million, but to your point, half of those came in from offshore, and the other half that were here, less than 50% of it was U.S. content. So this is a very, very complex issue. For example, I'm familiar with some of the electronics plants that are getting components from China, and if that tariff continues, even though it's an automotive part, they could basically have to shut down that plant. They're looking at between $5 to $10 million of additional costs. And of course, the auto company is not going to accept that cost. Right. We have developed tote boards where we look at every component, we look at the tariff rate, and we push the button and it rolls right down. And we know the impact of what it's going to be. And we might be able to pass some on, Dagan, but we're not going to be able to pass it all on. So I think this is a very critical move that the president made, and it's going to help both the United Auto Workers here, and it's going to help the car company. And again, you could read all the reports now that people are concerned about buying a car, what's going to happen to used cars. I mean, what happened last time when we went through it, Dagan, you remember the auto parts companies really took off. If you think about O'Reilly and AutoNation and so forth, I mean, they really, Advanced Auto Parts took off because people were keeping their cars longer. Right now, the car park is about 12.6 years, and we may see that number go up. People are going to keep the cars they've got.
Bob, what's your take on, some economists, they're skeptical that tariffs will actually restore American manufacturing. Where are you at on this? Will it really drive up the amount of manufacturing we do in the United States overall, above and beyond the car market?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. And, I talked to a lot of CEOs, both Fortune 500, middle market. Here's the thing on that, Jason, what has to happen. Let's say I'm a CEO and I'm willing to onshore and build a factory and equip it, right? So that may take 2 to 3 years. In the meantime, what should happen is I should get a reprieve on tariffs that are coming in because I've committed to come back. Point number one. Point number two, once I have the factory here and this president's out of office, what happens to that 15% corporate tax? If it goes back up to 27.32, I'm back in the ditch again. So there has to be some extension of what we're talking about here to reshore and give the confidence to attract, motivate, and retain those factories here, Jason. That has to happen. And one of the things no one's talking about, how is any of this going to be tracked? Are we going to have cargo ships 40 miles offshore bouncing around like we did during COVID? Because how are we going to be able to validate what's coming in, what's the tariff rate, how do you pay for it, who's going to record it? I can see tremendous confusion here as we work through this process.
Bob, real quick before we jump, The automakers here, and Honda's one of the biggest American automakers, frankly, they were shocked by the 25% auto parts tariff that was announced. How long does this reprieve from President Trump need to last on the auto parts tariff? How long do they need? Real quick.
Well, Dagan, a long time. I mean, you're a big NASCAR fan and you know what goes into those cars and even the normal consumer. I mean, you're looking at the majority of engine parts are components that are made offshore. And that's the primary part of an internal combustion engine, as opposed to what you talked about, Elon Musk, with an electric car. It obviously affords itself to more U.S. content. But we went through this offshoring and globalization, philosophy. And I never had an outsourcing strategy. I had a strategy I had to compete globally. And because of high rates, because of high tax rates, because of policies and control, EPA, environmental, et cetera, we had to compete against the likes of ABB, Siemens, et cetera, when I was running GE Power Systems. So this is a long supply chain that we're messing with right now, Dagan, to your point.
Okay. Bob Nardelli, thank you, sir. Terrific to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.